we are mildly interesting guys, and we talk about some stuff. So welcome to the podcast, we call it Joel the Podcast. It's Alex and it's Alex, here for Joel the Podcast. Bzzz. Hello everybody, I'm Alex.
And I'm Alex.
And this is our podcast,
Joel.
Welcome to episode 61, I believe, of Joel the Podcast.
Yep. Today is September 30th, as you know.
What?
We'll get to that.
Okay. Alright. I first wanted to start off by letting everyone know that Nathan does not owe me $1.
Alex does still owe me $7.19, I think.
That is what my confusion just now was about, because I was like, last week I was sure I was going to pay you, and then I didn't. So I'm going to do it right now as I'm talking, so that I do not have to go through this for another week.
All right.
Nathan.
That's fair enough. I've gotten to do it for several podcasts now. It's been very satisfying. We should probably bet more money on things soon. But
718. What's it for? It is for
being better than you at Jeopardy.
I'll just write big dumb.
That's definitely the same thing. Yes.
And I will make this a private payment so no one else can see me paying you $7.18 for big dumb.
The last time you paid me was 50 cents, and it's called A Secret Instrument.
Yeah, do you not remember what that was for?
No, not at all.
It was,
Oh, wait, yes.
Okay.
I do now.
Our
Why'd you
podcast
pay
listeners
me 50 cents? I'm confused. I thought you had to pay David.
I think we split it, so you probably paid him, and then I paid you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right.
Big dumb.
All right, so with that out of the way, we move on to sports. So the Eagles got their first win of the season Sunday night against the San Francisco 49ers, who were without their starting quarterback and a number of their other starters, but also so were the Eagles. The Eagles were missing their top 4 wide receivers, so...
Wow.
Yeah, but they pulled out a win, their first win of the season, which of course put them in first place in their division, so...
Incredible. At this point in the season, one win is good for first.
Yeah, exactly. The other teams in their division are 1-3, 1-3, and 0-4.
Yikes!
And one of those wins that one of the other teams in their division has is against the Eagles. So really, the entire division only has 2 wins outside of themselves.
Sounds like it's maybe a rough season.
Yeah. Honestly, last season was pretty bad. The Eagles won the division at 9-7. And it appears now at least that it will be much worse this year.
Yeah.
The Cowboys' offense looks pretty good, but they gave up 49 points to the Browns this week.
I think that's the only one of the only sports things I've seen in the past week was a highlight from that game where the Browns running back nearly got tackled for like a 15-yard loss, and then instead he scored a touchdown.
Yep. Yeah, and actually it wasn't even a running back. It was a handoff to one of their wide receivers. So
interesting. Okay.
But yeah, that was the play that kind of iced the game because the Cowboys were down by the Cowboys were down by 1 score at that point, and they had to stop them on 3 plays to have any chance, and they just gave up a touchdown on the first play. So,
wow, that was the first play even.
Yes, the first play of that drive. So,
Yikes.
all right.
Bad job, Cowboys.
I know everyone's always on the edge of their seat to hear about my fantasy team. It turns out it's going to come down to the 2 games that are tonight. It's not decided yet, but it's not looking good for me. I have 2 players playing tonight, and my opponent has 3, and I came in with a 7-point lead. So
you're essentially counting on your 2 players to outscore their 3 players.
Yes, which is unlikely. Except,
right.
Actually, they don't have to outscore them. They just have to not get outscored by more than 7 points.
Are points in fantasy awarded in similar increments as in real football, or is 7 points like 1 score, or?
So, kind of. So, it's different for different positions, but in general, 10 if you go 10 yards, that's 1 point, and if you catch a pass, that's 1 point, and if you score a touchdown, that's 6 points. Those are the basic scoring. And quarterbacks have higher thresholds for points because they get so many yards and stuff.
Right.
So that they don't just get stupid amounts of points.
Right.
But that's the general idea. So
certainly possible that you could still pull it off, but
yeah, it's just not looking good, especially because the first game of the night that's going on right now. Actually, my opponent and I each have 1 player in this game, and his player is doing much better than mine. So.
All right. Well.
Yeah. Ooh, I need to plug my laptop in. All right, so yeah, not looking good, but I'll update everyone next week. So we move on. Is there anything else? Oh, there was another Scorigami this week.
Really?
Might be worth mentioning. Yeah. The NFL has had record offense this year, probably because there's no fans in the stands. And as a result, 3 out of the 4 weeks this year have seen a Scorigami.
Incredible.
Yep.
So,
all right.
We need to address the email that we received today.
We got an email. Good. Let's hear it.
So today, September 30th, David sent us an email that says,
right.
Please do a special episode today to discuss podcasts. The subject line is International Podcast Day is Dumbass. And it's not about podcasts, but we are doing a special episode today, September 30th.
Right.
And
yeah, I was confused earlier when you said that, not because it's not September 30th, but just for another unrelated reason that I don't feel the need to disclose at this time.
It's completely unnecessary to talk about that any further. We agree that it's September 30th. We also agree that we are not going to record a podcast on October 5th, which is when we would normally have recorded the podcast.
Right.
And instead, this will be released just, whenever.
Instead of that.
Because we still haven't released episode 60 because, well, there's 2 reasons for that. And the first reason, which I thought was the only reason, is there were so many find the item games in that episode, and I try and separate each of our audio channels so it's not just a big mess of sounds.
That's smart.
So there's some editing work to be done, and I just haven't had time to do that. At least you
suffer as much as I do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But the second reason, which I think turns out to be much more important, is I don't think I have David's portion of the recording yet. So.
Nice.
Even if I wanted to, I could not yet. So.
Have we ever had David on with us and we've gotten his recording? Because I feel like the last couple of times something has gone wrong, which is what prompted us to do the whole Skype recording thing.
The last time we did get his recording, but he wasn't wearing any headphones, so our recording was in it, and that was the issue. The time before that, I think we got his recording no problem.
Okay.
So,
all right, fair enough.
To be clear, I don't think this is like a repeated offense, It's just that
right.
He's doing it wrong now, and that is bad.
Right, I apologize for that, David, so send us your audio.
Yes. to our email or Google Drive. Maybe he did send it to our Google Drive. Really hope he didn't, because we just made a really big deal about it.
You could just edit that out. Remember in the first... It takes me back to the first episode when we said we were going to edit all this stuff. What a joke.
I mean, to be fair, I think we knew at the time it was a joke, at least for some of the stuff.
Well, I think it was a joke at the time because we didn't think we would ever air the podcast, not because we didn't think we would edit it.
That's true. Okay, I can confirm that with my laziest possible search, I was not able to find any sort of recording sent to us, so...
From that information, I will conclude that there's no way that it was sent to us. So, David, please send it to us, and you can send it to our email.
Yes.
Which can be found at our website. And our website is alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website. So, and also anyone else if you wanted to communicate any information to us. You think anyone else still listens to this podcast other than David? It's been a while since we've gotten an email from anyone else.
It's just, I haven't really talked to anyone in a few months because I've been at home the whole time, more or less. Not that right. When I see people, I talk about the podcast to them or anything.
Right, I get what you're saying.
There's just been limited chances for other listeners to, talk with me about it. So, if you're out there, we don't know you're out there, and we're essentially tailoring this podcast very heavily to David now as our only consistent listener. So,
right. The thing is, it's possible that some of our previous listeners do still listen on a regular basis, and they just don't have any reason to email us.
Right.
Since we haven't heard from them, it makes me wonder. So,
to that I say, anything is a reason to email us. We have no standards.
Indeed. All right, maybe we should start the podcast.
Let's do it.
So, do you want to tell everyone what we're doing today?
So, today we are going to be looking at the popular question and answer website Quora, where lots of very high quality discourse takes place on the internet in the form of people apparently posting questions and other people showing up and with suspicious qualifications giving very intellectually presumptive answers to those questions.
Sounds pretty accurate.
So we thought, as people who are actually qualified, it's our obligation to take on this task of answering questions. And we didn't really discuss this, but I'm wondering if we should actually post our answers as we come up with answers in kind of abridged form.
Right. I'm thinking that we would get kicked off of Quora very quickly if we did that.
I was about to ask if it was possible to be banned, or is there a concept of downvoting, or
I suspect Quora is at least somewhat moderated.
Okay.
So
if you Quora, please email us and let us know how we can answer questions without being kicked off the platform.
Right. Well, we could answer questions seriously, but I have no intention of doing that. So
that doesn't sound like any fun at all.
So I think we should just keep our content to be exclusive to the listeners of our podcast for now.
Okay. So if you're listening to our podcast and you would like us to answer your questions, you can of course email them to us, but also you can post them to Quora. And there's a chance.
And then email us a link to them, because we're not going to answer most questions on Quora.
Almost certainly a much better way to get noticed is if you email us the Quora. In fact, what we can do is just require all emails from here on out to be first posted to Quora and then emailed to us. That way we can answer questions targeted to us on Quora and presumably build up some sort of positive reputation on Quora through that process that may in the future enable us to answer other questions on Quora with, not consequence of being kicked off as a new account giving all these terrible answers.
Well, you know what? That is a great idea, except for the fact that it's not actually a very good idea. Because number one, most of the emails we receive are not questions, so posting them on Quora, they would probably get removed.
Are the questions moderated as well?
I have to assume.
Man, maybe this is not the place for us. Can we ask questions? I assume we can. I think we should ask how to become a moderator on Quora.
You said you made an account for our podcast, right?
I did.
Excellent.
I subscribed it to as many generic topics as I could to give us a very wide array of questions to have the opportunity to answer.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I wonder if you can go on to Quora, and I think you should just be able to log in with the Google account. That's how it works. So that both of us can be, looking at questions and such.
That is certainly a good idea if I ever remembered the password to our account, so...
I am going to post it in the Skype chat as opposed to saying it out loud on the podcast.
That's pretty smart.
Also, this is just what I think it is. I'm not sure I remember. But you can try that. And if that doesn't work, I have some other ideas, but...
Ooh. Sorry, I accidentally logged in as myself. Damn it, I don't want...
Okay, while you're working on this, I am going to ask our first question, now that we've gone ahead and established what we're going to be doing, and lots of other ideas that were much worse than what we're going to be doing. So, here we go. Will doing 500 crunches every day cause visible change?
I would say for sure. Definitely the blood that you would be... that we would be coming out of you would be a visible change.
Yeah.
Is my thinking at initially. Let's see. What do you think about that?
I assume that you would get shorter over time as your core muscles became stronger and therefore pulled on the middle of you much tighter.
That's perfectly reasonable.
You would probably also become much more socially isolated, as all of the time you would have spent doing other more reasonable things will be taken up by you doing 500 crunches every day.
Right. Now, I have to think that if you're able to do 500 crunches in a day, there's not much need for you to do 500 crunches in a day.
How long do you think it would take to do 500 crunches?
Well, let's start with how many crunches do you think you could do in a day right now?
In a day? Okay, well, I could probably at any given time do one crunch with no adverse effects for...
Right.
Okay, so my initial thought was like I could probably do like 10 crunches. But the third or fourth time I tried to do 10 crunches, it would be much more difficult.
Right. I just thought it was funny that you thought about that for like a minute and then was like, one crunch.
The point I'm trying to make is that regardless of the number of crunches I have already done, spaced out in time, I could probably always do one more.
Right, so let's say... So what is the minimum amount of time between crunches where any effects of that crunch would be nullified, do you think? Like, how if you did one crunch, how long would you have to wait to do another crunch
before it didn't matter that I had already done a crunch?
Right.
That's an interesting question.
And I assume as you did more crunches, that time would increase. Right?
Yes. Well, ideally, no.
Ideally, no, but probably would.
So, like, well, in the actual to answer the question properly, you would pick a time so that it didn't ever increase, because that's the real answer. But the approximate answer is, how quickly can you do the next crunch so that the second crunch is essentially the same as the first?
Right, because the thing is, like,
but
if I do
some
a crunch,
build up over time.
In like 10 seconds, I can definitely do another crunch.
Right.
And I'm not going to feel tired from the first crunch. But I definitely cannot do a crunch every 10 seconds.
By the time you got to, like, the 20th crunch every 10 seconds, I'm tempted to find out, but, you know, it would be too difficult for my microphone to reach down to the ground where I would be.
It would be amusing if our podcast was in a visual format.
Yes.
Which it's not.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, every 30 seconds to 1 minute, for a significant amount of time, I think I could do one crunch reliably.
Right, and you could probably use that 30 seconds to a minute to do anything else necessary, like eat or go to the bathroom.
Yes.
Assuming you didn't have to take a big shit or anything.
That maybe counts as a crunch, though.
Let's conservatively say that you could do one crunch a minute.
Yes.
And you are awake for 16 hours in a day.
Which is, as we all know right off the top of our heads, a number which equals 16...
times 60.
Times 60, which
is...
obviously is 960.
I was close. I was about to say 1,060, so I was only 100 off.
Yeah, not bad. I really should have been able to do that in my head. I mean, I totally did do that in my head, but I should have...
Right. Should have been able to do it much faster.
Done it faster? Yes, yes. 960 crunches. Okay, so I mean, that's almost double what we were asking
So it sounds
about.
like it's definitely feasible to do 500 in a day.
So you could do 500 crunches. You could do a crunch every 2 minutes and still, more or less get to 500. And that's easily twice as doable as doing one every 1 minute. So
right, the thing is, now I'm thinking, if you were doing one crunch a minute, I feel like by hour 8, you're gonna be tired. Like, you're not gonna be able to continue to do one crunch a minute.
What about one crunch every 2 minutes?
I have no idea the problem. This is just what it seems like to me. All right. Let me just think. If if you take away this strategy, right? Let me think about. I just do as many crunches as I can. Then I rest for as long as I feel I need to, and do as many crunches as I can again, and just keep doing that. How many crunches do I think I could do in a day? Do I think I could do 500? I could definitely do 100. I don't think I could do 500. I could definitely do 100 crunches in a day.
In a day?
Yes. I think I could do 10 crunches 10 times in a day easily.
When you put it like that doesn't seem like that much. That's like 10 crunches every hour for most hours. Not quite every hour or every other, but
an optimal strategy would probably be to do it every hour in the beginning, and then at the end put in spacing hours when you're more tired. So could I
increase the work at the beginning so that as you slow down, you have the space to slow down. You know.
I think this is total speculation on my part. I think I could do 200, but saying that makes me realize I probably could not do 500 crunches in a day.
Yeah. I think this is a prime podcast experiment if you are listening out there and would like to attempt to do as many crunches in one day as you can and report your answer to us, please email us and let us know you're willing to do that.
This seems like a good use of your Saturday.
We will compensate you with
exposure,
podcast exposure.
I was very glad that you directed that as a call out to our listeners, because when you said it was a good experiment, I was like,
Yeah, I'm not about to do 500 crunches a day.
So now that we've discussed that, read the question again, because we do need to talk about the actual question.
All right.
I know we did at the beginning a bit, but
the question, I've actually moved on in search of the next question, but more or less the question is like, would your physical appearance changed if you did 500 crunches a day?
If you did 500 crunches one day. So now that we've discussed how many we think we could do now, I think it's fair to say that contrary to what we said before, if you're a fitness level where you can do 500 in a day, you're not necessarily at a point where it's like you're already super jacked, right? I think you could still be not like in peak physical form and do 500 crunches in a day. Would you agree with that?
So you think it does not take like a perfectly in shape person to be able to...
I don't think you have to be like an NFL athlete to do 500 crunches in a day.
Somewhere between me and a professional athlete, someone in that range could do 500 crunches in a day.
Right, exactly.
We're not quite sure where, because we don't exactly know how many crunches we can do in a day. That's what we need you to help us find out. But I think I agree with that.
Okay, so given that information, I would say that it's certainly likely that if you were at a point where you were, below a certain threshold, doing 500 crunches in a day would certainly make a visible difference after a number of days. It would obviously not happen in a day. And you would wake up super sore, then, oh man, that would suck.
I mean, doing 500 crunches in a day sounds kind of terrible, but imagine doing 500 crunches again the next day.
Imagine being sore and having to do like 20 crunches when you wake up.
All right, I think we need to move on.
Yeah, I'm getting PTSD. All right.
Yep.
What?
I was just starting the next question. Did you have something else to say?
No. Go ahead.
Actually, you've got it pulled up as well. Do you want to ask the next question?
I haven't been looking. I do have it pulled up. The first question I see is, what is the solution to evaluate Fib 1 plus Fib 4, which I don't even know what it means. So,
maybe click on it and see if there's more information. I think it would be Fib 5, or maybe Fib 5.
There's no
or
answers
Fib
or
14.
Explanation of the question.
All right, which of those do you think is most likely? So the question is, what is Fib 1 plus Fib 4, right?
Uh-huh.
So I think it is either Fib 5, Fib 5, or Fib 14.
I don't think it's any of those things.
No?
Okay, let's establish what does Fib of n mean?
I don't know. I guess depending on how you define it, I think it's reasonable to expect that one of those answers would be correct.
Well, so the thing is...
My first assumption is that Fib doesn't mean anything, and you're just adding 1 and 4. Which, no. I mean, based on the level of question I've seen posted to Quora, that's not out of the question.
I think Fib is related to Fibonacci. I think Fib of 4 is meant to be the 4th Fibonacci number.
Okay, so...
Or the sum of the first 4 Fibonacci numbers, maybe.
Without doing any further research, I'm going to assume that it's Fib n is the nth Fibonacci number. And I assume that the Fibonacci sequence starts with 1, 1,
right.
2, 3. So Fib 1 is 1, Fib 4 is 3. Therefore, Fib 1 plus Fib 4 is 4.
Right.
Which is not Fib...
of anything.
1,
Oh no, it's Fib 3.
Fib.
No, it's not Fib 3.
Fib 3. It's
It's
two
not
times
Fib of
Fib
anything.
3.
Right, yeah, it's 2 Fib 3.
2 Fib 3.
All right, that's your daily dose of speculative math.
Speculative math is a good kind of math. I kind of like speculative math. We can do some more speculative math. This is not so speculative. This question asks, what 3 numbers can be multiplied to get 36?
Many.
I feel like there's an infinite number of answers. My favorite would obviously be 72, 1, and 1/2.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say there's a finite number of answers, but I forgot about fractions. So, yes, there's an infinite number of answers. I would say that my favorite combo is 36, 1, and 1, the classic.
Yep, that's... When they were first making multiplication, those were the first ones to come out of the oven, and you really got to think that, that's... No matter what else came next, that's just the one you got to stick with. That's solid. That's like the can't think of a metaphor.
It's rock solid.
All right, what else we got? That was a fun one.
I have a good one here. This is a writing question. What is the best way to end a chapter in your book? Since we're both writing experts, I feel like we should have a good handle on this one.
Well, I think so. We may have discussed this on the podcast before, but I personally believe that podcasting is nothing but vocal writing.
Right.
And in fact, we're so good at it that we don't have to write it in advance. We just do it on the fly.
So I definitely agree with you on that. I feel like it may not be applicable to this question because the writing that you would do for a podcast, which we don't need to do,
right,
is not the same as the writing that you would do for a book. So ending the chapter in a book is not the same as ending a podcast episode.
So I guess what you're saying then, the correct answer is not, this was our chapter, Joel.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm getting at here.
Okay. I guess I have no ideas then.
Great. Well, I mean...
Okay, actually, you know what? There's always the option of having a cliffhanger that just resolves into nothing at the beginning of the next chapter. As a reader, I never get tired of that.
Right. I mean, that's the obvious option, but I mean, I'm trying to think out of the box here, and my first instinct is just a random string of numbers. I mean, that may be kind of weird, but I'm not sure how that's any worse than any other option. Keep in mind that I've never written a book before, so I'm totally speculating.
I'm sure it's not that hard. Honestly, whatever idea we come up with is probably equally as good as any other idea that's been had, based on our knowledge and expertise, of course.
Uh-huh.
So, I kind of do like the random string of numbers idea. Because just imagine, you're reading a book. I think this works especially well for like a mystery novel. You're reading a book, and it's just like the story of the chapter premise kind of wraps up, and it's like, and they were wondering what the clues could mean. 6, 41, 13.4. And then the next chapter just starts like nothing even happened.
Right.
That's definitely an aesthetic.
For the record, this was totally a joke when I said it, but now I'm thinking that you could have different codes at the end of each chapter, and they all kind of solve each other somehow. I'm not like a code expert, but...
Yeah. No, I think this is a genuinely good idea if there's some sort of payoff at the end of the book.
Yes, right.
If there's not, it's kind of dumb.
Right. So actually...
Or maybe it's just meta funny,
Right, and I feel like this... Okay, so to explain what I'm thinking, in some books that I read, the Brandon Sanderson books that I've mentioned on this podcast before, I think, there's some chapters that have an epitaph epigraph. It's like a little italicized thing at the beginning of the chapter.
Oh, like a quote from some other...
Right, a quote from something.
Yeah.
And one of the... what the quote is from changes in each part of the book. His books are divided up into, like, 5 parts each or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that in one of the parts, it's like this. Like, there's a kind of code or something at the beginning of each one, and it's... I haven't actually looked into how this happens, but it is possible to, like, look at certain parts of the codes and unscramble, other ones. And those codes are all from things in the book, so it's not like it's just random things for the listener, or for the reader, rather, to figure out. It's, like, actually related to the plot of the book.
Wow.
So...
Yeah, that's... I mean, when there's that kind of, like, layers and depth, that's always a big plus. So...
Right.
Essentially, whatever you're writing, you need to get way more invested in it.
Right, and make sure you end every chapter with a string of numbers.
Yes,
is the bottom line.
Definitely the best answer. Every book I've read that has ended chapters with strings of numbers has been the best book I've ever read.
I think if I was reading a book like that, I would just like stare at those numbers for way too long.
We've talked. Like,
what do these mean?
We've talked in the past about other ways we could branch out from podcasting. In fact, we were doing a bit of discussing just before the podcast, which is probably why this is in mind. I assume it would be fairly easy for us to write a book. That's kind of trivial, actually.
Right.
It would be very amusing, I think, to release that to our listeners and get their feedback on various chapter ending techniques that we might use.
Right. So the thing is, I feel like we should clarify when you say easy to write a book, you mean trivial. Easy in the sense of easy to think of things to write, not a lot of work. Because I feel like it would be a lot of work. It would just be easy to do great writing, I think. Knowing us.
So it would just take a bit of time.
Right, yeah. It's like we would have to put, a fair number of hours into generating all the amazing content that I know we would be able to do.
Right, like probably at least 2 or 3 hours, and we could crank out 60 to 100,000 words. That feels like a book length. Yeah, I would say, to our listeners out there, expect that next week. We'll be emailing you. Actually, if you email us, in fact, and request a copy of our novel, our new novel, quick, what's the title of our novel? We need to
Joel the Book.
Joel the Book. So if you would like to read Joel the Book, and give us some feedback on the pre-release version, so that once we go to publish it, self-published on Amazon, obviously, we can know which way is best to end our chapters. Right now, we're pretty certain that that's random strings of numbers.
Yep.
Good. Let's see. Let's go to another question that will hopefully not give us follow-up work.
Here's a one we can answer pretty quickly.
All right.
What makes Usain Bolt the greatest of all time? And I think the answer is obviously his name. Imagine being a runner named Usain Bolt. I mean, it's like the perfect name for a runner.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
that alone, I think, makes him the greatest of all time.
It doesn't get any better than that. He's certainly very good at having that name. Probably the best there is. So,
yeah, I don't know anyone else who does it as well as he does.
Yeah. When you think about it, that's just what you got to think about is, man, does he be named Usain Bolt really well?
Yep.
It's as simple as that. Why does Greek yogurt taste like nothing?
Well, the answer is that Greek people have no taste buds. So when they made their yogurt, just like all their other food, they made it with no taste.
Oh, that's tragic.
Easy question and answer right there.
Yeah, just 1-2. So follow-up question. This isn't on the website. Does that mean that all the time I could be eating Greek yogurt and I wouldn't even know?
I don't think it necessarily means that. There's certainly some possibilities there, but number one, you can't breathe properly while you're eating because you can only open your esophagus or your windpipe you can't open them both at the same time. So you can't. So if you're breathing, you can be sure you're not eating Greek yogurt at that moment.
But anytime I hold my breath, there is I would say a very high likelihood that I'm being secretly fed Greek yogurt.
I don't know if I would say high likelihood, but I guess
literally no way for me to deny that I'm eating Greek yogurt when I'm not actively breathing.
The Greek yogurt is being quantum teleported into my stomach.
I mean, yeah, if you bypass the whole throat, then I guess that could be true of any food, though, because if it's just put into your stomach, you wouldn't taste it anyway.
Right. So, yeah, that's true. So here are the signs. If you feel you're full all the time, if you find it hard to talk because there's something in your mouth that's kind of like a very viscous liquid, those are two signs that I would say that you are being secretly fed Greek yogurt without your knowledge. So be on the lookout for that.
That just went off the rails so fast. I can't handle it. All right, we need to move on to another question.
So let me ask. Never mind.
What is the use of style in our everyday life?
What is the use of what?
What
style?
Is the use of style?
This
is a very broad question.
I would say that a style is like a password, in that if you change your style, no one will recognize you, and you will become a completely different person. As we can see with Superman, when he puts on glasses and wears normal person clothes, he's unrecognizable to anyone. So I would say that's kind of my take. What do you think about that?
I mean, that is some pretty flawless analysis right there. In fact, in addition to being a password, it's almost like your username as well. We've got some...
That's fair, although I would say that your name is more like your username. Like, whereas, like, if I say, hey, I'm Alex, then they associate that name with my style, so that, like, username, password being associated together. I see here, Mom's Weird Trick raises her credit score 193 points in 90 days. And it's a woman standing in front of a BMW. This seems like a great question. So
if you buy a BMW, you'll be given a better credit score in 90 days.
Yeah, 193 points apparently.
That's a guarantee right there.
All right, here's a question. Let me tee one up for you here.
All right.
What happened 4.5 billion years ago? Go.
In the beginning, there was a mommy universe and a daddy universe. They loved each other so much that they had the literal biggest bang that there has ever been and ever will be.
That was awesome. I was not sure where you were going with that.
That's also not 4.5 billion years ago. Right, so let me fast forward a little bit. The cleanup was a little sloppy, as you would expect.
Ongoing, one might even say.
Yep, it's not done, and in fact, you and I and every other person is a part of that ongoing, bang residue. And 4.5 billion years ago, a lot of that all clumped up into the solar system. I'm sure lots of other things happened as well, but I assume that's what this question is mainly referring to. The fact that, around that time frame you've got things like planets forming and dinosaur bones being spontaneously created and buried in the crust because, of course, there were no dinosaurs. The green screen that permeates space being laid out so that NASA would eventually be able to recreate the moon landing in New Mexico. Probably all of the aliens died around then. That's why we haven't heard from any aliens, but they definitely existed. And they did, I suppose, probably have to leave a couple of them behind to, build pyramids and stuff. That's all I can think of.
That sounds like a pretty comprehensive list.
Yeah.
I think. I would add that 4.5 billion years ago, there was a Tuesday, I think. I'm not sure exactly what day of the week it was 4.5 billion years ago.
Yep.
Tuesday is just my best guess, and given my knowledge, I would say it's infallible and certainly correct. So, it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
When all those things happened.
Yep. I mean, there certainly was a higher likelihood of being Tuesday back then as well. So, really, that's
considering
the way you have to go.
4 days of the 7 were Tuesday.
Yeah.
Wasn't until the Tuesday reduction of 1953 that we came to the current one Tuesday per week that we have now.
It's amazing that was so recent.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. All right, you got any more questions?
I've been so engrossed in that one that I have not even been looking at the webpage anymore. That was such a
I've got one here. Why do musicians have pretty hands? The answer to this is pretty simple. As we're both musicians, we'll be able to tell you that when you go to musician graduation, which non-musicians obviously don't know anything about, you generally it's not required, but most people trade in their hands and purchase better hands, prettier hands, because your hands are so often used when eating, which is something that all musicians do. So.
It should also be noted. So there's that. That's certainly probably the biggest factor. I think there's kind of a lesser known. Maybe this isn't even cause and effect. Maybe this is just random coincidence. But it should be said that typically musicians are already more attractive people than non-musicians, and therefore chances are they've got better hands to begin with. But
right, that's true.
Obviously, the whole trading in situation, at least, once you've graduated, I'd say that's definitely the bigger factor.
Right.
Good question. I hope they don't come after us for sharing. That's not many people know about that. And so you our listeners to the podcast have this new exclusive knowledge.
Right. I just want to do a quick plug here with this question. What are the best sites to download sports clips? I would say the number one and only site you would ever need to visit for that is Alex and Alex at joelthepodcast.github.io/Alex and Alex at joelthepodcast.website. I'm sure you'll find numerous sports clips there to download.
Almost certainly. All of them worth watching anyway. All right, here we go. Here's another writing question. I think we did well on our previous one. Mm-hmm. How do you write a formal invitation to a guest speaker? First of all, I'm honored. You can just send us an email at alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website. I honestly don't care what information you have to say. It really doesn't even have to be all that formal. But we will, of course, be happy to bill you extravagantly to speak at whatever event it is.
Right. Was the question, how do you...
How do you write a formal invitation to a guest speaker?
Right. I would say that you would want to do this very carefully and considering your words, because guest speakers, aside from us, obviously, are easily scared off by improper grammar or pretty much anything that's not perfect, flawless prose, near poetry, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
in
don't
fact,
fuck it
I
up.
would encourage rhyming just to, as best you can, capture the attention and
Classy rhyming, not like Dr.
Yes.
Seuss, more like Shel Silverstein.
Yes, yes.
This question comes to us from Quora. What is the... Thank you for laughing at that. What is the biggest design flaw in technology? I would say my initial thought here is the design feature, not flaw. Some people might consider it a flaw, where we will introduce bugs that can only be fixed by rebooting whatever device it is we're talking about.
Yeah, that actually is a really big problem.
I know as a person who creates technology as part of my job, there's like a quota, it sounds kind of like Quora, for the number of these bugs that I have to put in just to make sure that the user is restarting the device enough. So, what did you think I was saying?
I thought you were being serious. I was considering that, like, wait a minute, what?
I'm glad I'm so convincing.
The tech industry doesn't want you to find out this one secret. We're actually introducing bugs that make you restart the code.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
it would be a problem because I work on like buses, so if your bus just stopped working while you were driving and needed to be restarted, that would be a problem. So
Yeah.
make sure you restart your bus frequently while it's in a reasonable state to be restarted.
Otherwise, you're going to be caught out, have to shut down right in the middle of the road, and that is something nobody wants, I'm sure.
Yep. Jeez,
All
we're
right.
on fire. This is one of our best episodes. How time are we at? 52 minutes. All right.
All right. Yeah, we can knock out a couple more questions. I'm feeling good. This is going well.
Let's plow through. You got anything
here we
up
go.
in there?
Is Green Acres your favorite TV program?
That's the whole question?
Yep.
Okay, absolutely. I don't even know why anyone would ask that.
Yeah.
That's the only TV program that I know of, so
Yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, I feel like sometimes people are just posting these questions on here so that other people can come along and just absolutely knock it out of the park and feel good about themselves.
I think so.
There's some really kind people on Quora that are giving us those sorts of questions. All right.
How many lines of dialogue should be in a screenplay? Sorry to bulldoze you there, but I think this is an important question.
That's definitely an important question. I would guess anywhere between 1 and 3 million.
Oh, geez. Okay, I was thinking in the billions. So.
I mean, fair enough. I can definitely see how with modern movies being much more dialogue driven. I haven't seen an action movie in years. It's really just all people standing around and talking nowadays.
Right. And even if it is an action movie, I think a lot of those lines can be, scene directions. So
yeah.
Between 4E9 and 6E9 is my estimation.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can see that. I don't want to just abandon so if it depends on the genre, right? Like if you're going for that kind of classic feel, I think you could get away with those low millions. But honestly, I do think you're right in appealing to the broader audience today.
Right, I'm just talking about more like blockbuster mainstream movies that we're talking about nowadays. But if you're writing more of like a short film, I think you're going to want to aim for around like 10 or so. That's kind of more the ballpark for short films / kind of vignette kind of things.
Yeah.
So,
No, you're totally right there. There's, that's what you should shoot for. I assume the person who asked this question is writing a screenplay, and to them I say good luck, because not all of us are naturally talented writers.
and you say not all of us, meaning not all of them.
Not all of them.
Not,
I mean,
right.
clearly.
Yeah. All right. You were about to ask a question. Let's hear yours.
How hazardous are paved roads to our health?
Well, first of all, definitely depends upon what you're talking about use wise.
I certainly wouldn't recommend eating them.
Right. I was gonna say eating probably pretty hazardous.
Yeah.
Laying on definitely hazardous. Although I would say that maybe the cars themselves, you could consider them to be the hazard rather than the road. But it's still certainly definitely detrimental effects from laying on the road.
Could be very hot too. You could be.
Right, but then again, that might be the weather. That would be the hazard.
The true dangers were never the road.
Right, unless you eat it.
Unless you eat it, because I mean, there's so much of it.
Driving on
how many roads there are. If you had to eat all of the roads, you would almost certainly be moderately to severely sick.
I would think that you would actually. This is total speculation, obviously, since I've never eaten a road. But I would think that you would get full before you would get sick. Or you would get full before you would get severely sick, is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And I'm thinking you could only eat a few interstates at most in a day, so...
Probably.
That's kind of my thought. Just to finish up the question, driving on roads, perfectly safe, obviously. I mean, I feel like that may have been the listeners... On a serious note, I feel like that may have been their question, and... What? So...
Actually, taking this seriously, though, how else are you supposed to interpret that? The fumes from the road? It's gotta be driving on them, right?
I guess the only other thing I can think of is, water running off the road and taking something with it as it seeps into the ground. I don't know, but that's the only other thing I could think of.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, there could be some consequences for being near roads, I guess, to the environment.
Yep. Here's a question. What was the most ridiculous way you or someone you know paid for their school tuition? I would say I had this person who I knew when I was in college, who paid for their tuition by being really smart and working hard. That is what I would say is the most ridiculous way that I can think of.
Yeah.
Some more reasonable ways. I know someone got hit by a car and sued for their tuition, so that was an easy one. One person played sports for the school until he or she blew out both of their knees doing so. I feel like if we had started this podcast earlier, we probably could have paid for preferred tuition that way, but unfortunately we didn't get extremely popular until after college.
Right. Instead of paying tuition, we're instead just becoming fabulously wealthy.
Right.
So bummer that we couldn't pay our tuition, but
You have any other ridiculous ways that you can remember?
I mean, everyone I know paid their tuition the normal way by just, selling drugs and organs and stuff, so...
Right.
I don't have much to add.
Sorry, I'm sorry I broke there. That was too good. What is the sum of 1/2 plus... Oh my gosh. What is the sum of 1/2 plus 1/4 plus 1/8? 367 answers. Holy fuck.
Wait, I want to try and find this question. Let me search. Why are there so many answers?
Because everyone knows how to answer this question. So everyone feels the need to put in their own explanation, I guess. Wow. As everyone can see, the answer is obviously 8, because that is the highest denominator amongst the fractions, but that is pretty funny.
Man, that's incredible. Some of these people are converting to decimals, and to me that's just confusing, because you've already got the denominators right there.
Right, if you convert to decimals, then you would then have to convert back to fraction to get the answer, so it's like...
Yeah.
Pretty much pointless.
So, I mean... I think, if you're going about adding fractions and somebody's trying to tell you to convert to decimals and stuff, you probably have free reign to just never listen to anything they say ever again.
Right. Alright, here's a good practical question. How do I stop my stove from getting dirty? There's an easy answer to that. Number 1, never use it, and just eat out for every meal. That's the easiest way.
That definitely is the easiest way. I think it's the most realistic way as well. So I do have some different advice just in case you are in fact forced to use your stove. Personally, I've never had to stoop that low, but I'm sure some people out there, might.
Yep. I'm pretty sure you can do anything you would do on a stove in a microwave, so...
Right. The trick really is just to lay down your tarps before tossing the food inside. Not speaking from personal experience, obviously.
You're talking about a stove or microwave?
Oh, no, this is for the microwave now.
Right.
For stuff, for a stove, if you have to use a stove, can you even afford a tarp? Let's be honest.
Let me ask you this. Do you know how to use a stove?
Yes, but maybe in a much more realistic way. No.
That reminds me of the talking head from The Office, where Michael's like, when the crisis happened, I knew exactly what to do. But in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do. So, yeah. I think my stove is actually extremely much better than a normal stove, because even though you can't actually cook anything on it, when you turn the dials, if you take a nap at that time, you'll have very funny dreams. And when you wake up, it'll smell weird. So it's much better than the actual normal use of a stove.
Right. Yeah, that's a good. Never thought of that, because I've had the past couple places I've lived have had electric stoves. So
right. So you can only charge your phone on them, right?
Right. Yep. Which, I suppose that's convenient. I guess, honestly, I don't have anything to say to somebody who's trying to make food on their stove. That's just ridiculous.
Right. And to be fair, just to wrap it up, to be fair, the questioner never actually said anything about making food. They just asked about keeping it clean, so...
Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe we jumped to some unfair conclusions there. I say, just once your phone is charged, wipe it down, or turn the dials off if you've got a fancy gas stove.
Yep. All right, let's hear yours.
How much water do I need for 500 grams of bread flour?
500 grams, easy. All right, next question. Just kidding. I don't even know what bread flour is.
I was going to say none, I assume. Because I don't think it takes water to make bread flour.
I think that's pretty fair. My only concern is that maybe they were asking how much water do I need to make bread using 500 grams of bread flour.
If that is in fact what you meant, question asker, who I'm sure is listening to this right now,
obviously,
please email us to clarify, and
we'll answer it if that's your question. But
yeah, We'll give you the official Joel the Podcast recommended bread recipe.
Right. Here's a question from the politics section, and I know we tend to avoid politics, but I think this is an okay one. What is the meaning of spirit of democracy? I would think that this is referring to, just my thought, George Washington's ghost, which can sometimes be seen around Virginia election places, which pretty much I think at this point is ignored by most people because he's just railing against political parties. I can't think of any other spirits off the top of my head. You have any thoughts?
No, I mean that's almost certainly what it's referring to. Certainly before George Washington gained traction in American politics, I mean there were probably some others that could have laid claim to that title, but none so prominent that I would assume the average Quora question asker is going to be,
right?
Looking for that as an answer as opposed to the more common, widely accepted one.
Right, and I think if you're looking for specific designations for ghosts or other spirits, you can head to the Council of Ghosts website, or just visit the Council of Ghosts in Montreal when they're meeting, and find out from them exactly who is designated as what. So, this is an excellent question. What is the favorite snack of a mathematics teacher solving mathematical terms about? Wow, I do not even know what this question is asking.
This feels like the setup for a joke.
This question does not make any grammatical sense is the problem. What is the favorite snack of a mathematics teacher, I'm with you so far, solving mathematical terms, with you so far, about? Nope.
About.
This question does not make any sense.
What is the... So getting rid of some stuff in the middle, it's what is the snack about? Right?
If you eliminate most of the words, then those words are remaining, yes.
Because, there's some detail in the middle, but technically, sentence structure-wise, that stuff isn't all that important. So in some form, they're asking, what is the snack about? And I just don't know what that means.
I agree. So why don't we answer this question by just removing the word about? What is the favorite snack of a mathematics teacher solving mathematical terms? Which is a valid question.
It's still a little bit strange because solving mathematical terms is not like a well-defined concept in math.
Would you say that what the mathematician is doing, what they're solving, would you say that has an effect on what their favorite snack is? As a physics major, I would say that you're closer to mathematics, so you might have a better idea.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I wouldn't rule it out entirely that being in the act of doing math would make you prefer one snack over the other. And actually, you know what? The more I think about it, almost certainly the repeated exposure that a math teacher, is it a math teacher?
A math teacher, yep.
So a math teacher, you're exposed to a lot of math. You're almost certainly constantly bombarded with math, in fact.
Right.
As well as having to teach people math. So not only are you thinking about your own math, you're thinking about people thinking about math.
Right.
That's definitely got an effect on your snack preferences. Now, what I can't tell you is what kind of effect, because that's secret.
It's secret. Only mathematicians know.
Yes.
Right. So
mathematicians and you and me.
Well, I don't know. You can just tell me after the podcast, though.
Okay. I'll type it in the chat right now.
Okay. I would say, without knowing this secret about how it affects their appetite, I would say that brownies are a great snack. And I would be willing to bet that most mathematicians would like brownies. So, wow, that is a juicy secret that you just typed into the chat. So,
yep.
But I don't think it changes my speculation, which is brownies.
Brownies. Okay, yeah, that's a solid answer. All right, I've got another food related one, and I think maybe after that we've got time for one more, and then we should wrap it up. So here we go. Why are watermelon and orange not eaten together? And I don't know if you have any initial thoughts, but my initial thought is just that I certainly can't fit both a watermelon and an orange in my mouth.
I mean, I can't even fit a watermelon by itself into my mouth, so
It's true.
I don't know why you would even try to eat one of those. But the other thing that comes to my mind is that you would want to avoid. I mean, I'm not a fruit scientist, obviously, but I would want to avoid watermelon. What was the other thing?
Orange.
Watermelon orange annihilation. That you would be prone to if you would eat those at the same time.
Yeah, that's an important consideration. I think this is more of a personal preference as well, but I might as well share. For obviously political reasons, do not eat foods that are different colors at the same time. So I mean, there certainly might be some people out there like that.
That's a good reason. So let me ask you this: this is not related to the question, just related to the statement you just made.
Right.
What is your opinion on like multicolored foods, like one of those red, white, and blue popsicles?
See, okay, so that specific case is totally fine because you can eat the red part and then the white part and then the blue part.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know, like I'm trying to think of other.
What about fruit snacks?
Fruit snacks, you can eat each color of fruit snacks individually as well. Same thing is true for like
one
M&Ms
fruit snack,
and Skittles and so on.
So eating a green fruit snack and then a red one is fine as long as you don't eat them at the same time.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Okay. Yep. I got it.
So I mean, I'm struggling a little to think of any food. I've actively tried to avoid any sort of food that's multicolored, and I've kind of blocked them from my day-to-day life, such that I can't even come up with an example right now. But if you're out there thinking like, man, these guys are idiots, why can't they think of this? Then please email us and
set us straight.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I think we've established that there's numerous reasons why you would not eat those two fruits together. So I'll close this out with this excellent question brought to us from the fashion and style section of Quora. Am I wearing my Apple Watch too tight? By the end of the day, I have an impression on my wrist. If I make the watch looser, it moves around too much.
I think the number one thing you want to avoid in selecting your Apple Watch tightness, and this is very specific to Apple Watch, by the way. I think there are various standards for other watches, but for Apple Watch in particular, I think above all else, you need to ensure that it does not move around.
Right. So you're saying whatever the loosest setting is, that prevents it from moving around.
Yeah, as long as there's two things you need to make sure of. Number one, can you move the Apple Watch around? If the answer to that is yes, then you need to tighten the Apple Watch.
Right.
Number two is, can you feel your fingertips? If the answer to that is no, you need to loosen the Apple Watch.
Right.
And with that two-step plan, you can easily determine an acceptable range of tightnesses to wear your Apple Watch.
So those are some good points. My thought is that you have to go back and think about, why am I wearing this Apple Watch? And the only real answer, obviously, is so people will know that I'm rich.
Yep.
And given that information, I'm actually going to go the other way. I would say that the looser the better, really.
Interesting.
Because if you wear it loosely, then it looks like it's in danger of falling off, right? Or at least appears much less secure. And so you actually have a twofold bonus here. Number one is you're saying, I don't care if this Apple Watch falls off. I can just go buy 5 more. I'm so rich that it doesn't matter. And number two is when it's super loose like that, it's nearly impossible to actually use. And so you're saying, I just bought this Apple Watch for the status. I don't even need to use it. So I would say that just put it on the first notch, meaning the loosest position, and just let it flop all around your arm. And also that will attract more attention to it as well. So win-win-win, I would say, from that perspective, is my opinion.
You know, I went from pretty strong disagreement when you started talking to, honestly, I think you might have just won me over.
Nice. And like you said, that's pretty Apple Watch specific. If you have any other watch, I would say your determination of not moving but also being able to feel your fingers is a good metric.
Yeah.
So, all right. I think that was pretty good, and that was a lot of fun. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you liked this, let us know, and maybe send us some Quora questions to answer if you have some free time.
They don't have to be your own. You could just go on Quora and send us links to stuff.
That is exactly, yeah, that's what I meant. So, all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Alex.
I'm Alex.
And this has been Joel.